because I think we have two agendas here, fighting violations of human rights in Iran and also stopping the Iranian nuclear program from achieving a military dimension. Traveling in many different countries, I've noticed that the Iranian nuclear issue has produced a tsunami of misconceptions and misunderstandings, and there is a lot of contradictory positions. Some people, for example, say, well, if Pakistan has the bomb, or if Israel has the bomb, why shouldn't Iran have the bomb? So this is one of the questions. Another one is, well, you know, but this is a program which is very popular among Iranians, so who are we to go and dictate to 70 million Iranians not to have that? Some other people say, well, what is Iran doing? Is Iran just enriching uranium for its nuclear power stations, you know, to produce electricity? So what's the problem? Before tackling these questions, I offer you a bird's eye view of the history of the nuclear program in Iran. It started in 1958 under President Eisenhower as part of the Atom for Peace program, with the understanding that if Iran joined this program, it would not enter any program in pursuit of military use of nuclear power. So the first nuclear reactor was created in Tehran, west of Tehran, in a place called Amir, not named after me, of course, but nevertheless, and under the University of Tehran. And they started training the first group of Iranian nuclear physicists. The first courses was set up by Dr. Mahmoud Hesabi, who became the father of nuclear physics in Iran. And gradually Iran started dispatching students to study nuclear physics abroad, and for some reason we sent a whole batch of students to the University of Iowa. I don't know why Iowa, because I haven't been there, but for me Iowa is where cowboys are, and you know, lots of nature and probably mountains and so on. But anyway, they went there. This continued until towards the beginning of the 70s, the Shah started feeling that the West is in decline, its leadership is weak, the Western societies have become too fat and too enamored of life, they are not ready to fight for their ideals, and the time may come that under pressure of public opinion, Iran will be abandoned by its Western allies, and of course Iran had the second longest border with the Soviet Union at the time, and a border that was considered as one of the three sensitive borders that would lead to Third World War. So the Shah started this nuclear program, apparently, you know, to produce electricity, but in fact to acquire the whole technology of nuclear science and reach the surge capacity. Surge capacity means when you are in a position to produce a bomb, but you don't do it necessarily. It is like a housewife or a man, if I don't want to discriminate, especially in Holland, who goes and shops all the ingredients needed to make a soup and builds a kitchen too, but doesn't make the soup. He or she could make the soup at any time. So this was the Iranian strategy, and of course, Iran first addressed itself to the United States. The United States, under Nixon, agreed to cooperate with Iran, but when there was Watergate and Nixon had to resign, under the Ford administration, they canceled all the agreements, the memoranda that we had in Iran. So Iran was left in the lurch. They dispatched a big delegation to Canada, headed by the Prime Minister. The Canadians promised a heavy water plant and so on, but that didn't go through. They negotiated with France, and in the end they signed several agreements with France. But the first to agree to help Iran build a nuclear power station was Germany, and Siemens designed the first power station at Helia near Bushehr accomplice story afterwards. The strategy that the Shah had chosen was a bit like Edgar Allan Poe's shortest story, The Purloined Letter, in which, you know, a letter that everybody wants to steal is put in full public view, and since it's in full public view, nobody sees it, because people go in the drawers and under the beds and so on. So the idea was that if we have a very open nuclear power program, we enrich uranium, then of course, if you enrich uranium up to a degree, you can use it to make military material for a bomb as well. And nobody could say it. To emphasize the point further, Iran became one of the first 11 countries to sponsor the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, one of the first signatories and the sponsors, and very active in this business. And Iran even produced a program for a Middle East free of nuclear powers. The Soviets vetoed it at that time because the definition of the Middle East included part of the Caucasus and Central Asia, and they didn't want to do that. Even at that time, you know, as a journalist, I was opposed to the nuclear program of the Shah, and I published 2 articles which caused me a lot of flack and a lot of hassle, arguing against this program on both matters of national security and the environment. Now let's go into the revolutionary period. When Ayatollah Khomeini seized power in 1979, one of the programs he scrapped was the nuclear program, which he thought he labeled as a Zionist crusader plot against Islam, and one of the many Zionist crusader plots that had to be abandoned was this, so they abandoned it altogether. Until towards the end of 1980s, when Iran was at war with Iraq, and this is what we have learned recently during the past few months. The then commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard wrote a letter to Mr. Rafsanjani, who was at that time the active commander of all armed forces on behalf of Khomeini, telling him that if you are going to win the war against Iraq and liberate Jerusalem and do all the nice things that the Ayatollah wants us to do, we would need a nuclear capacity. Without it, we can't do it. So the Ayatollah apparently agreed to restart the program, this time with a very clear eye on the military use of an eventual nuclear possibility. Now, of course, the Islamic Republic diplomats and apologists everywhere deny that there is any military intention, but the Islamic Republic itself has admitted that for 18 years it cheated and lied to the International Atomic Energy Agency and did not allow them to carry on their work. They found contaminated mechanisms in their possessions, and basically what Iran said that, sorry, you know, we did it, but we are not going to do it again. And in response to that, the Europeans said, okay, so far you have been doing all these nasty things, but if you stop cheating, then we'll give you something more instead of punishing you. It's like, you know, the wife telling a philanderer husband that, oh, don't, darling, don't cheat on me anymore, and, you know, I will allow you some more advantages.